day, if you were here. And this works in nice complement to the inner leg awareness, essentially. The outer hips into the glutes. And without going into vast detail, as with any of these muscle groupings, there's not just one. People say, oh, your glutes. Well, there's at least 3 pieces, if not 4. Maximus, minimus, medial, piriformis, and they all conspire or hopefully work together to allow you to move about freely. So if you just stand up for a second, and we'll be getting down on the mat soon, but if you were to take your hands to your outer hips, so your thumbs are digging into what would be the top of the hip, side hip, and then your hands wrap around. So this is where we're working, and if you just simply try taking your towel for a second with one foot, say we're standing on our right foot and our left. Toe mound, ball mound is on the left. Just move or kick that towel foot forward, and then just make a little circle outward, and then come back to center. Just go forward and then out. So can you feel the muscles on the side working as we just make a little external loop? Right? It's a little sweeping. You can bend the other knee a little bit. And then just switch. So when you go out walking, if you're just coming in, just take a towel under one of your feet, kick it forward, kick it out to the side, bring it back. Just make a little circle. And so we're starting to work the muscles, particularly these outer hip muscles. If I just take this hand here and feel them engage as they go out and then back behind me. And your circles can be big or small. So skaters develop some pretty big glutes. Let's do the first side again. If you need your balance, you can get to the wall. But when you go for a walk, as I was saying, you can get away with, or any straight line activity, not using the hips, the muscles of the outer hips. Sitting is terrible. So this is what we're going toward. Obviously, after time, free floating the leg, which we'll try a little bit later, being able to just move out. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's have a seat and take our legs like a frog again, as we've done in the past, and just roll over to the side. And again, just iron out that inner leg. You can also feel as you move your opposite hand to inner leg and press from outer hip to knee, as we did on Monday. The contact with the ground of the outer hip. So some of this outer hip work, if I just stay here for a second, leaning onto my bent knee and engage the outer glute, or as much of the glute on the downside as I can, is going to work in complement with the inner leg. So I can do all these yoga poses passively, or I can be dynamic. So I could just sit here, and we all know people that are really loose, and just try to stretch. And that's fine, as I warm up the inner leg so that it's happy with the contraction now. You squeeze your glute on the bottom side. Can you feel that squeeze? Let's try the first side again with a little more articulation and come over this way. And I'm taking my right hand to my left inner leg. So can you feel as you rock back and forth the pelvic calf and the outside of that bottom hip? And as you engage the glute now, stop. Can you pull the hip toward the screen, like I'm pulling my bottom hip under and toward you, instead of letting it wing out? And that action, I have to engage the muscles underneath to do that. Subtle. Then I can rotate a little more as I do that. So go easy if it's your morning body and you haven't had coffee yet. But again, if I just sit on this hip, it could be lazy. The muscles underneath the hip could be lazy and allow me to open the leg, the inner leg with my hand ironing out, fine. But I can also be dynamic. If I'm trying to slip slide or slide the hip, the outer hip, toward you. How does that work? Engaging and pulling that hip underneath, deeper underneath. So when we get to our warrior poses, this becomes critical because if you do 20 years, 30 years of yoga, doing your warriors and your outer hips are winging out to the sides, they get damaged. And so you have all these yogis with hip problems. Not so good. Come back to seated again, and then you can straighten and then just bend the knees a little bit. So take your hands now, both of them, to a spot somewhere between the knee and the hip, and just push out with the legs. So now and release, and push out and release. So engaging the outer legs, super important. And if you do this with your eyes closed, can you feel how it can help create a little space in the pelvis? And these are engaging the glute medial muscles, which allow for lateral movement, but also allow later on in class for upward movement. So the chest is actually gets a lift through the outward expression of the legs. This could turn into a boat pose fully, leaning back, balancing, picking the feet up. Now we got the core involved, but are the legs collapsing, or can they push out? So stay here for the rest of class, or let's move on a little bit. Let's cross our legs and allow those outer hips to relax. So it's going to be a lot of engagement of the outer hips, and we have to also then disengage a little bit. Let's start to take it forward and scoot the sitting bones back a little bit. And take a few breaths to bow. And as we already mentioned in the last class, in forward folds, the backs of the legs, hamstrings, the attachment of the sit bone, all that gets into play. With the cross legs, we get a little bit of outer hip stretch as well. Switch our cross and try the same thing. So because there is going to be a lot of outer hip strengthening work, we'll have some opportunities, or take the opportunities yourself to do any of these releases. And here's the other one, figure 4, which we'll soon do on our backs, but we'll show you. Here, notice I cross my right foot over my left knee. Just take a few breaths and feel what's happening in the outer hip of the upper leg. And chances are it's hiking up, and we're going to try and push that hip bone down. And you can take this to your degree of forward inclination. As you come forward, you'll start to feel maybe a little bit that outer hip. switching sides. Again, just preliminary awareness of where we're working. Figure 4. And these folds you get into when you are first involved with yoga as some sort of goal. Well, you know, how far can I fold? The person next to me is doing the full fold out. We're not concerned with that too much in these sessions because we want to do things safely. Go back to side 1, for example, and take your at least one hand down the same side as the hip, the knee that's bent, and hook your other fingers around the outer knee like that. And then what I want to do is try to push outward with the bent knee. So hooking my fingers to create resistance, and then the knee starts to drop down a little bit. And I'm engaging and stretching dynamically. The IT band, the outer hip. The left foot's even shaking a little bit. Okay, so then now I'm getting a little more savvy about that spot and I'm pushing outward to engage that outer leg. Advanced students could even take their fingers around their foot and extend it across so we get this IT band stretch right to this hip while I'm working. Let's try the other side. This whole thing could be done on one's back, of course, but I want you to see. So I got my left arm back, and then most people, the hip is hiked up, so there's a lot of compression in the side of the body into the low back. So I want to try and lengthen that as well. Strengthen, hook my right fingers around the left knee, and I want to push out left, and then engage dynamically around the outside of that. The T-band, etc. I can lean down, but the knee starts to travel down even with the other. So really great little isometric resistance. Advanced students, of course, can pick up the foot and just take it across. And again, this hip pushing down and out. This one, maybe this session I'll label as down and out in the outer hips. Literary fans, of course, getting my reference to George Orwell. Well, down and out in Paris and London. Okay, enough of that literary trivia. Let's go onto our backs and work a little bit before we get too far ahead. If you're near a wall, you can have your feet into the wall. Have a little lay down, and maybe you need head support under your head like that. And then just see if you can, like you're stomping on grapes, whether your feet are against the wall or not, just push your ball bounce one at a time, asymmetrically into the space or the wall in front of you, and feel the hips. You even take your hands to your tops of your hips, moving your hips in slight asymmetry. Okay, and just working hip flexors a little bit. So stomping on grapes, squish, squish. And then have your strap handy. And we're going to open it to a pretty big loop. And just have that nearby. So it's about a 5-foot loop. Let's go ahead and pull the left knee in, Apanasana, and you can hold it with the left hand and move it toward you and away from you. So this is normal straight line movement. It's too hard to have the right leg straightened against the wall. It's okay. But now let's try to take the, if you stop for a second or take a peek, I'm going to take the outside, the palm of the left hand into the outer knee. That's bent, left knee. And just push out into the palm as you inhale. So the left knee just bent, moving out away from the center line. Exhale, release the midline. Inhale, the accordion expands, creating resistance of the palm against the knee. And just go out, push, and in. Out, and in. We'll do this about 10 times. Your free arm can either be out to the side, near your hip, or extended to the floor beyond you. But really working, even if it's a very small push, which sometimes is better, you push out, away from the body into your palm. Okay, can we try the other? Uppanasana meets outer hip strength. First, we can just hold that right knee with the right hand and move it toward and away from us as we've done. Left leg can be fully extended to the wall, pushing, or bend the knee. Now steady that right knee and take the right palm against the outer knee and push out, inhale, and release, inhale. Push out. So same group of muscles on the outer hip are being tightened. You can be going 2 inches, you can be going 6, but pretend you're at the gym using your hand as the resistance machine. About 10, out, and in. This is less, this is a little less yoga than PT, but it'll pay off in our yoga poses. So you need to be doing this every day, and then release the legs and just give them a shake like spindles to release the outer hips. So I'm just turning my toes in and out, in and out, in and out. And then releasing that. So what if we were to do both legs without too much technology to start? We hug the knees into the body, give them a squeeze. Seems innocent enough, but if our hips and the hip strength isn't there, it's even a simple pose or simple stretch can be not so good. So as we release the feet to the floor, the bridge pose, then see if you can take your hands, both of them now, not so much to the knee as the space between the knee and the hip. So right around where you consider the meat of your IT band, and then just start to go out with both legs, push, and then release, and push, and release. And go easy if there's pain in the low back. And this is going to create a little bit of an arch in the low back. Chances are, try to move the hips away from you as you push. And I already mentioned that this lateral engagement, the outward push, can create a back bend, can create a lift in the chest. So let's see if bridge pose makes sense, even though we're not going to move the knees outward, as we were just doing. Now, as you bring them to parallel, arms by the hips, palms to the sky, as you start to lift the hips up, hold on a second and have the action of pushing outward with the legs, even though you're not doing it, and then come up. And so that these lateral, you can even feel your lateral glutes here, where your fingers should be as tight as a drum, tight as a drum, doing it with my fingers. And sliding the hips away. And this engagement of the glutes, particularly the glute medials, is rendering a mild extension. And then come down. Supta Baddha Konasana, soles of feet together, knees wide, release. So here's one of our release moves. Now we can try that again if you didn't feel it so much. We're taking our straps and pull the knees in, loop the strap over the feet, and cinch the strap a little bit tighter so that my knees have the strap just above them. And the knees are hip width. So I have something to push out against now with the knees. Can we hover the shins like this and take the hands behind the head? Inhale and then exhale, come up. And just do a few crunches, pushing out into the strap as you come up this time. One extra credit, you can straighten your legs. And really push. Let's set the feet down, try another bridge pose with the cinched knees. And now it should make even more sense, or at least more sensation. And as I come up, I'm not only lifting the hips, but I'm pushing out into the strap with the outer knee. And this should travel up. You can check in with yourself. We call it getting in touch with yourself. The entire glute, which is very omitted in yoga. Some teachers even say, oh, relax your glutes. This yoga is about relaxation. Nope. And it's intelligent engagement of the body. Okay, don't overdo it if this is tough for you, but here's your power glute bridge pose. All right, so pull the knees in the squeeze, and slide the strap off. And you're going to take the strap wide, wide, wide to about, 5 feet. Send it aside for a second, drop the feet down. And as we've done in the past, just glide your knees to one side and your head to the other. Again, just kind of a release move. Strength work is great, but also can create a little too much ice or contraction. So learning how to engage and release muscles is really, in any physical activity, where the intelligence lies. Okay, one more thing before we go into the strap work. Let's go back to Uttanasana, either having one foot against the wall or not. And pull your left knee in, or whichever one you like best. And now we want to try and not hold the knee at all, just hover and go out and around and make a little circle. So a little bit like we were doing initially in class, if you came in right at 8, and I had us doing a circle with straight legs standing, and now reverse directions. So just feeling the muscles around the hip that allow you to rotate the hip out and then back to the midline. Let's try the other leg, pull it in, and just start to, for you, it might be a little tiny circle, but if you can explore fully without sending the low back into distress. Okay, we'll come back to that, but I want to work into the primal matter a little, so to speak. So now we're going to take that long strap loop and hook the feet. So the strap is around the arch of the foot, just below the toe mounds. And so you can see that I've got a pretty big loop, I'd say 4 foot, 4.5 foot diameter. I'm holding the reins of the legs. The legs are now straightened and the toes are flexed. And yes, you probably guessed, whether your legs are fully straight or slightly bent, I'm pushing out into the knife edges of the feet and then releasing. Push and release. So I can feel the outer hips, get some engagement. Okay. Now the next thing is a little bit tricky. So as we start to take the legs away from us, sliding the strap through the hands, hang out, and again, push it out with the legs, like you're water skiing, and you'll soon feel or overfire the legs. Okay, and then let the right foot keep the strap, lift your left leg up like so, and let the strap slide down into the left knee crease. Or not the knee crease, sorry, the hip crease. So once again, here I am, take a peek, a little tricky, and I take the strap only into the right foot. The left leg comes toward me, the knee bends, slide the strap down to the left hip crease. I'm going to hold the left knee. Just the strap is necessary so that if you hold the left knee now and you push with the right foot, it has a strap, you're going to get a tractioning, lengthening of this left hip. And we did this at least once before. Afterward, people felt pretty good. So if it's too hard to get the knee in your hands, you need to loosen the strap. And now we're just tractioning and lengthening the left hip. This can also be done with the legs straightened instead of bent. Let's try the other side. So you can hold the strap loose again, come up to the top, and I'll show you how it works. Essentially, drop the legs away and only have the strap in the left foot. The right knee bends toward us. We slide the strap down the top of that right leg and put it in the inguinal crease where the leg meets the belly, and then gently pull the right knee into both hands. Push the strap with the left foot. And I'm just getting a lengthening through the holster of this right hip. Go easy so that we get the junk out of the hips. And so if you're sitting, standing, the hips getting jammed, the low back getting jammed. And again, this could be done with the legs straightened. That one may serve you well in the future. But let's come back to where we started with the strap on the feet. And now we're gonna take our strap loop even wider, so we're straddling out to the sides. You can then hold the strap, one or both edges, doesn't matter, but both is superior.
And now I'm going to do my pull-ups for the day in my very lazy way. So first I want you to just see if you can hold the strap. And as you pull the strap, come into happy baby, allowing the knees to bend down toward the floor, and like a bow-legged horse rider. Most of you know happy baby. I start to dig into the hip flexors a little bit. We worked on this the other day. Then I push out with the knife edges of the feet. The strap lengthens, my arms lengthen, and I feel the outer legs. And then I pull, inhale, and exhale, kick out. So here's your exercise, creating a Pilates machine. And so once you get it, feel the value of, as you pull with the arms, coming into this strength work, dynamic strength work around the hips, and then pushing out and feeling a different part of the hip. And I hesitate to articulate that any further, but I'll just say, don't be lazy in the hips, but keep pushing outward and then away from you with the pelvis. Pull and push. Pull and push. We can do one side. We can pulling in my right hand, my right knee, and extending through my left and release. They can pull on the other side, the left and the right leg pushes out. And so I'm starting to go into this side to side. Some little kids do this. And I'm tricking you into some core work, of course. I could also roll to the side, advanced students, with the whole apparatus. But if you have some low back issues, stay to the midline. Okay? So let's go ahead and take the strap off for a second and take it aside, drop the feet down and drop the knees to the left and then to the right. Just release the psoas, pushing on the diagonal with the upper knee. Okay, really good. Now, one last thing before we come up, and we'll try a final Apanasana, holding the right knee. And now see if you can do what we did earlier with no hands and just move the knee. And then we're going to move the knee to the midline and over, right knee over to the left, until I start to flop over onto my left side. And we're going to take Anandasana. So now adjust your left arm out along the floor as well. And you can lay your head on it and take your towel. And then we're going to stack the legs right over left. So really push down into the floor with your bottom hip. And if you have the wall, into the wall. Just simply lift up on that right leg and then close the scissors. Really simple, but again, I'm engaging this right outer hip as I go up and down. And your right fingers, my back is turned to you, but they're supporting my balance in front of my face. As I now hover and pull the right knee toward my face, knee and nose on the side plane, and then kick away. Standard stuff, but we're just working the outer hip. And don't forget about the underside hip pushing into the floor. And can you do the knee bend to the side, pull toward you and away? It's kind of like we were doing earlier, and the circles, but we're being a little more regimented about it. So how about hovering? Start here. Hover, pull the knee up toward your face. Open the knee to the sky. And then kick back. Turn the hip. Pull the knee up toward you. Open the right knee to the sky. Kick out toward the wall. And then rotate the hips together. So making a full loop. And of course, advanced students say, oh, well, he's just getting us to do this. And holding the yoga pose. Well, who cares about the yoga pose if it doesn't include the musculature back here? So the preliminaries help us get there. So hopefully you can see that progression. Engage the other hip as the knee points to the sky. Whether the leg straightens or not is, I'm not too concerned. Okay, soften the knees a little bit, let them drop, then roll onto your back. Let's try the other side. Use the towel, have it waiting. Then pull that left knee in and start to make little circles and move over to the right. And then you can just shift and stack the parts of the body for Anandasana with the right arm extended or the towel under your head and arm. So the legs are stacked. You might have your feet against the wall. And then we just hover that left leg. So you should be able to feel this glute medial muscle working, right? And this is the weak side for most people, so you've got to do extra. And then how about pulling knee to nose and kick back. Feel what's going on in the hip against the floor as well. So someone had a hip compressor and was pressing the hips together. And then we pull the knee up toward us, cock the knee to the sky. Try the whole thing again. Open. "200 times. Or stay, feel the engagement back here, and maybe the yoga pose develops. With a strap or otherwise, holding the back of the leg. So for me, the other muscles they're now trying to compensate for a weak outer left hip. This is really hard for me, even though I'm successfully faking my way through it. And so what happens is it starts to create pain in the inner leg, the weakness in the outer leg. So here's just to show you part of my work. Okay, let's soften the knees a little bit and roll onto the back one last time. Pull the knees in, give them a squeeze. And then we'll rock and roll, holding the knee creases on back. Come up to seated, and then come onto our hands and knees. Have a towel roll handy, and we'll make it into a little square and just have it on the floor on the left side. But let's go ahead and take our hands and knees, cat and cow. And a downward dog just to expand things a bit from all that work. You can pedal the knees out. And come forward to high plank. toning the outer legs by pushing them out into an imaginary strap. Remember, we have the strap around the knees. The outer hips, even here, help support toes. Take ourselves over to the left, walking our whole body, and put the left knee on the towel, which is on the floor. We're just going to slide that towel out away from us, and then pull it in. Slide out, go easy, and then pull it in. One more. And then from here, let's go ahead and glide that left foot back and take the toes onto the ground. Take the left heel down, you can put it into the wall, and see if you can come up on your left fingertips and take your left hand to your hip. Now we're using this left hip muscle to push and engage straightened leg. Take the left hand up and over if you want. We're starting to move toward actually yoga. And let's try the other side and just walk the knees over to the right. The towel comes with us. And we'll just open the adductor, a little sliding, skating the right knee out and then in. Go easy. I'm going to take that right leg back, put the toes down, heel down, maybe into the wall. Come up on your right fingers, open to the right, and engage the outer back of the right hip. And release. Walk back to center. Take a child's pose just to check in with your low back. And also, if you like, a downward dog. Take your downward dog and move to plank. Think of the strap around the knees. Push out the outer legs. Push outward. And that will brighten, broaden the chest. Drop the knees down. Sink to child's pose. Hands and knees. So now, you can stick with the towel exercise if that's sufficient. But otherwise, remember on our side bodies, moments ago we were doing things with the outer hip. Can you just, instead of using a towel roll, lift the left hip up? And in yoga classes, the yoga teachers are like, oh, this is the dog at the fire. Funny yoga jokes we tell. So you could be strong in this hip or not. And if you're strong and you lift it up, you could also just kick it back to the wall, push it into the wall. And maybe as you start to engage that hip, come up to an Ardha Chandrasana modification. Again, this is serious, strong. Take it progressively. We try the other side, and we try to just lift the right hip up. Go easy. Maybe you kick back to the wall, put the foot into the wall with the toes turned out, and come up. Full engagement here.
and then release. Child's pose for several breaths while I refresh my water, then we'll move on. Or you can do the same cycle again. Okay, so what's important here as we work these outer hips, and let's stand up now, is that I want to be able to engage, but also, as I mentioned, with my weak left hip, not get this compression hiking up of the hip. So that's why we did the work with the strap on our backs, where we had this sort of thing. We're not going to do this exactly, but I just want to show you in case you missed it, where we have the strap around the hip, and we were hugging and pushing the hip down. So, oh, let's try it. What the heck? Let's take the strap into our feet like we did on our backs and hold the reins. So this strap should be able to come to your hip flexors and make a little rectangle. And then if I just take the strap up, I actually have to cinch it up a little bit, into the right hip and pull. So you get the picture. We're keeping the hip down even as we engage it. And switch sides. Let's see, I had the measurement wrong. It's to about the inner leg, the inseam. And then we pull the left knee and hold it. So this roots you, keeps the hip down. Whereas if you do this normally, you try it again on each side. But if you do it normally, you'll see the beginning students lift the leg up and the hip does this. So we want to be able to keep in a way, the outer hip somewhat engaged. Let's try it around the right leg again, but then let's go into a strap. So you don't have to go that deep, but I've got the strap around. It's right here. And I'm going into a strap. You can go wider or shallower, depending on your level of your practice. And then I'm going to bend into that hip, like I'm just going to hang out. I'm getting a push or a pull into this outer hip. Everybody see how I have the strap around the hip? I've done it before, and then you just go down. So go up and down a few times. So here we start to get into where this pays off, because the strap is pulling the hip back to the midline and down a bit. So I've got the strap around I call it my right hip. It's a mirror. And now I'm going to turn the right toes out. So now I'm entering a yoga pose, warrior two. But this is still tractioning this hip. And it's doing the work that really you should be doing on your own with the gentle squeezing of the glutes. Can you feel them back there? Checking in with yourself. Because if not, you just compress into the hip. So come down into side angle. And not only is the back hip working and the glutes, but underside is moving. Remember initially we were starting class, I said, now slide the hips away, like I'm pulling my right sitting bone through and over by squeezing the glute. It's just a little sophisticated, but it'll allow you to get deep into a strong side angle without crushing your hip. Yeah. So what happens is these yogis do the 20 years of yoga and they crush their hips and their glutes get really weak. What they start to do, it's compensating just to show you, is they turn their right toes further out to the right. If you do that, it pulls the hip under. It helps, but it's a cheat. Let's try the other side. So again, if I have the strap here, and I lift up into the left knee, and then step out. And start with a straddle with the toes parallel. So the strap loop is around the lateral glutes, medial, minimal, piriformis. I just bend into the knee and come up. So all I'm trying to feel is resistance and connection. And push, I had said, find a doorknob, which we may get to, but I then realized, well, some people may not feel that. So this is allowing us some connection without that. So I want to start firing where this strap is as I turn the left toes out to the front of the mat. And so as I come into side angle, I can engage, contract those muscles where the strap is touching. It sucks the sit bone to the midline. Side angle. If not, the hip wings out behind me, like my butt's sticking back and crushes. So come in, engage. And both glutes here are engaged. And I totally disagree with the non-glute engagement in yoga. You need your glutes. And they start to waste away. Good. So that can be your practice. You can do that again. If you've got the doorknob, I'll just show you what you can do with that for the hips. Take a second though and just stand. And I want you to feel, close your eyes and feel how the hips are feeling. We should have some effervescence.
And let's take a forward fold and bend the knees and see if you can think about that outward expression of the legs as you fold down, whether your legs are straight or not. Move the hips apart, push out, and flow into the space. And then come up.
So again, this outward push is super important. And because you're not engaging the outer hips when you stand and sit, it's almost like the hips and everything else just collapse. So you've got to be expanding out as you fold, right? So you can do the exercise we did earlier, or now you can try the belt loop. I conveniently have these French doors. You have an attachment. Or doorknob. I'm just going to show it to you so that you have it. And I'm going to step through, in this case with my left leg, around that same area we were just working into a lunge. And so not everybody has this sort of apparatus at home that you can collect the strap. And what I'm doing it's like a warrior one lunge, because I have the strap around the outer hip and I can lean or push into it. I can push away and push away like that. It's a very small movement. And you do about 10 revolutions. So again, it's like opening the upper leg bones apart rather than collapsing. Push. We can try the other side. Even if you didn't have a wall or an attachment, you could do some weird thing where you just have a strap around your other hip, moving the hip away, moving the hip. But just to show you, and the Pilates stretch band can also be excellent because you can stretch it. So moving the hip this way and then letting it collapse, moving it out. And if Stephanie joined, and I'm not sure I saw her, but this is, so for my left hip, it's just thanking me because as I push against the strap, open the upper leg bones, this traverses all the way up the spine into the low back. I'm really happy hips. One last thing, then we'll have to close off. And if you have a wall, you can do this against the wall. And we either use a towel roll or Kim and late, I was saying, grab some sort of a squishy ball. Got this old basketball, but assuming you don't have the ball initially, we're going to take a lunge and sidle our right hip up against the wall. Take our padding and just push into the wall like that. So, if you have the ball, then you get even better action. And because the ball allows the ball of the socket joint to move, and you push into that ball. And then I just glide my chest away and toward. And my knees moving forward and back. And I feel the retraction of the leg bone and then the opening gliding forward. But all I'm doing as I move the body is to pull, use the muscles of the outer hip to retract the hip back and then slide it forward. Plus I'm massaging my outer hip. Very subtle work in that outer hip. Even if you move an inch, sawing forward and back, and you can have a towel roll. And then when you stabilize the pose, you have a sense of pulling and tracting in that wall hip. Without doing anything fancy. Let's try the other side and then we'll have to wrap up what really amounted to a PT session. So, get your left hip into the wall and your left foot forward. You can take your towel and lean into it a little bit. You go up and down with the hip, you can massage it, circularize it, but the essential motion I was capturing is to move the hip forward and then back. Left hip forward and then retract. The rest of the body is moving, perhaps, but I'm learning to engage the outer hip muscles in a much more subtle way and practical way in terms of how the hips can be happy. Then you come into a lunge. Left hip is pulling back and down. And finally, releasing. So, one moment or two in on your front body. So normally we do Shavasana on the back body, but let's lay down and put our head on our forearms or head and just let the hips, kind of like we're doing initially on our back pedaling brakes, roll from left to right hip. And so we can release the low back a little bit. And let the toes now pigeon toe in a little bit. And so that the muscles around the outer hips get a little break. Coming up, either through Cobra or the best way you know how to seat it. So on Friday, I'm going to use this launching pad of the outer hip work to move into those back legs I mentioned, which can evolve from the outer hip work. So let's sit and feel the release of the outer hips a little bit here and see how it feels. I want you to notice how you feel just walking around. A lot of people doing their summer activities, rowing, running, walking, and this work will keep you able to do those practices. Bring the palms to the heart.